Imagine you are walking into a high-stakes meeting in a glass skyscraper in Manhattan. Or perhaps you are attending a networking gala in the heart of London. You see the person you've wanted to connect with for months. A CEO, a top-tier client, or a global leader. You walk up to them, confident and sharp. You open your mouth to speak, and you say, "Hi, how are you?" In that split second, the energy shifts. Not because you said something wrong, but because you said something average. You used the same poor English script that every other person uses. To the elite, you didn't sound like a peer, you sounded like a student. This is the invisible barrier that keeps most learners from the top 1%. To break it, we must delete average from your vocabulary and replace it with the linguistic currency of global leaders. In most English learning books, "How are you?" is taught as the gold standard. But in the USA, UK, and Canada, this phrase has become mechanical. It is a filler, a throwaway line that lacks depth. When you ask a high-status individual, "How are you?" you are unknowingly asking them for a favor. The favor of their time to give you a standard, boring answer like, "I'm fine, thanks." The elite don't seek fine, they seek impact. If you want to be treated like a leader, you must stop using the language of the follower. "How are you?" often signals that you have nothing more interesting to say. It places you in the academic box rather than the authority box. To move from the basement of fluency to the penthouse of influence, your first word must command the room. Let's look at the royal alternatives used in the boardrooms of Wall Street and the offices of Canary Wharf. Instead of the weak, "How are you?" try this power move. "It's a pleasure to finally connect with you." This works because it shows you value the connection, not just the pleasantry. Or if you've met before, use, "I've been looking forward to our catch-up today." Notice the word catch up. In the UK and USA, this implies a peer-to-peer relationship. It says, "We are both busy, important people, and our time together matters." It is subtle, but it is a massive status signal. Now, consider those moments at a coffee shop in Toronto or a networking event in Sydney. You want to be warm, but professional. Instead of, "How are you?" use, "How is your week treating you so far?" This is a high-resolution question. It is specific. It invites the other person to think for a second and shows you are actually present in the conversation. Another elite favorite is, "What's been the highlight of your day?" This is a psychological hack. High-status people love talking about success. By asking this, you immediately associate your presence with their positive emotions. You are no longer just another person. You are the person who made them smile. If you are targeting the UK or Australia, the British elite value understatement. A common, rich English greeting in London is, "Are you keeping well?" It sounds sophisticated, caring, and deeply respectful without being intrusive. It is the verbal equivalent of a perfectly tailored suit. Compare that to, "How are you?" and you can hear the difference in class immediately. In the USA, efficiency is king. Power is shown through directness and positive energy. Try using, "Great to see you. I trust you're having a productive week." The phrase, "I trust you're having," is an assumption of success. You are assuming they are doing well because, in your world, winners always do. This creates an immediate bond of high value between you and the listener. It is not enough to know these phrases. You must own them. Your voice is a muscle. If you have spent 10 years saying, "How are you?" your brain will try to default back to it. Take a moment. Adjust your shoulders. Look at the world with confidence. Say these phrases out loud with a calm, steady tone. It's a pleasure to connect with you. I hope your week has been productive so far. And are you keeping well? Don't rush. The 1% don't rush. They speak with the luxury of time. Communication is 10% words and 90% status signaling. When you use unique, high-value greetings, you trigger a recognition response in the other person's brain. They think, "This person speaks my language. This person belongs here." But changing your greeting, you are changing your identity. You are no longer just an English learner, you are an elite communicator. This is the first step in building your linguistic empire. We must understand that high-status greetings are specific, assumptive, and respectful of time. Your greeting is the first gate to the top 1%. You've now mastered the entrance and opened the door like a pro. But what happens next? Once you've greeted them, how do you keep the conversation going without sounding like you're reading from a grammar book? How do you talk about yourself in a way that makes people want to hire you, invest in you, or follow you? To answer that, we must dive into the most critical part of this transformation, the vocabulary of wealth. We must learn to replace common, cheap words with the high-value terms that millionaires and CEOs use every day. If you are ready to stop being average and start being royal, then it is time to shift your focus from simple communication to strategic influence. Moving forward from the greeting, we enter the core of your linguistic transformation. In the world of the top 1%, English is not just a way to communicate, it is a way to signal value. There is a profound difference between what I call academic English and strategic English. Academic English is what you learn in school. It is functional, but it is dry and often sounds low status. Strategic English, or the vocabulary of wealth, is what CEOs and global closers use to project authority, certainty, and vision. If you want to be treated like a person of influence in the USA or the UK, you must stop using cheap words that dilute your power and start using premium alternatives that command respect. Let's begin with one of the most overused words in the English language, the word good. When you say a project is good or a deal is good, you are being vague. Vague is the enemy of the elite. To a billionaire or a high-ticket client, good means average, and average is invisible. Instead of saying something is good, use words that carry weight. Use exceptional, formidable, or strategic. When you describe a result as formidable, you aren't just saying it's okay, you are saying it is so strong it commands attention. When you call a plan strategic, you are signaling that there is deep thought and long-term vision behind it. These words don't just describe a situation, they describe your mindset as a leader. The same rule applies to the word problem. High-status individuals rarely use the word problem because it sounds heavy, reactive, and weak. In this elite framework, we replace problem with challenge, friction, or discrepancy. If you tell a client in London, "Why have a problem?" they feel anxiety. If you say, "We've identified some friction in the current workflow," you sound like a consultant who is already looking for a solution. You are no longer reporting a failure. You are managing a process. This shift in vocabulary moves you from being a worker to being a solution-oriented executive. It signals that you are in control of the environment, rather than the environment being in control of you. Another common trap is the word think. Many people use I think as a crutch, but it sounds like you are asking for permission. To the 1%, I think sounds like I'm not sure. If you want to sound like a person of authority in a boardroom in Toronto or New York, replace I think with I am confident that, my assessment is, or the data indicates. These phrases remove the I and focus on the authority. When you say, my assessment is that we should pivot, you aren't just giving an opinion, you are giving a professional judgment. You are providing a high-ticket insight that people are willing to pay for. Now, let's talk about action. The way you describe your work determines how much that work is valued. Average speakers say they did a project or worked on a task. Leaders say they spearheaded an initiative, orchestrated a campaign, or leveraged a resource. If you tell a recruiter in California that you led a team, you are one of 1,000. If you tell them you spearheaded a cross-functional team to optimize revenue, you are the 1%. Words like leverage are particularly powerful in 2026. It suggests that you aren't just working hard, but working smart, using a small amount of effort to gain a massive result. This is the language of wealth. In the UK and Canada, there is a specific love for understated power. Words. Instead of saying you are very busy, which sounds like you are overwhelmed, use the word committed. If a client asks for a meeting and you can't make it, don't say, I'm too busy. Say, I'm currently committed to a high-priority project, but I can touch base later. This shows that your time is valuable and that you are a person of your word. It turns a negative refusal into a positive display of professional demand. This is how you build a linguistic empire, one word at a time, replacing the cheap with the premium. Your drill for right now is a vocabulary swap. I want you to take 3 common sentences you say every day and rewrite them using these alternatives. Change. I'll try to do it. To, I will prioritize this. Change. I'm sorry for the mistake. To, I appreciate your patience while we rectify this. Change. This is a big opportunity. To, this is a significant milestone. Notice how your chest feels when you say these words. You will feel taller. You will feel more capable. Because your language is the house your identity lives in. If you speak from a palace, people will treat you like royalty. Audit your vocabulary. Look for the cheap words hiding in your speech and evict them. You are no longer just an English speaker. You are a global closer. But even with the perfect words, there is one more secret to authority. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do with your English is to say nothing at all. To truly command a room, you must master the silent signals that separate the nervous talkers from the true leaders of the world. To truly command a room, we must look beyond the words themselves and focus on the space between them. In the world of high-stakes communication, silence is not an absence of sound, it is a presence of power. Most people fear silence. When a conversation stops for even 2 seconds, an average speaker feels a wave of anxiety. They feel a desperate need to fill that gap with ums, ahs, or the word, like. In the Royal English Academy, We call this low status noise. When you rush to fill a silence, you are unknowingly signaling to the top 1% that you are uncomfortable, reactive, and seeking approval. True authority, however, comes from the power pause. Watch a world leader or a CEO during a keynote. When they reach a critical point, they don't keep talking. They stop. They look at the audience. They let the last word settle in the air like a heavy weight. This pause does three things. It signals that you are in total control of your emotions. It gives your listener time to process your value. And it creates a vacuum that pulls people toward you. In a boardroom in London, or a negotiation in New York, the person who is most comfortable with silence is almost always the person with the most power in the room. To master this, you must learn the 3-second rule. After you ask a question or make a significant point, count to 3 in your head before saying another word. For example, instead of saying, "I think we should go with this plan. What do you think?" Try this. "This plan is our most strategic path forward." Then, stop. Maintain eye contact. Count 1, 2, 3. This silence forces the other person to respond to your strength rather than your chatter. It shows that you don't need to sell yourself. Your ideas are formidable enough to stand on their own. This silent authority also extends to how you listen. An average English learner is often so worried about what they will say next that they stop listening. They nod too fast, they interrupt, and they look restless. An elite communicator listens with stillness. When someone else is speaking, keep your face calm and your body still. Do not interrupt. When they finish, do not rush to answer. Take a 1-second pause before you begin. This small gap signals that you have actually processed their words. It makes your eventual response seem more calculated, more intelligent, and far more valuable. The power pause is also your greatest weapon against difficult questions. If a client or a boss asks you something challenging, the academic response is to start talking immediately to prove you know the answer. The royal response is to look at them, pause for 2 seconds, and then say, "That is an astute observation. Let me give you my assessment." By pausing, you have just turned a moment of pressure into a moment of prestige. You have shown that you are not rattled. You have shown that you are a thinker, not a machine. In the UK, this is often called the quiet confidence. It is the ability to hold the floor without making a sound. In the USA, it is seen as the mark of a closer. Someone who doesn't need to beg for attention because they already have it. If you can master the silence, you can master the room. You can have the best vocabulary in the world. But if you deliver it with the speed of a nervous student, it will lose its worth. Deliver your words like rare diamonds, few, polished, and spaced apart so people can appreciate their clarity. Your drill for today is the silence audit. In your next conversation, consciously eliminate one or and replace it with a dead silence. Notice the reaction of the person you are talking to. You will see them lean in. You will see them wait for your next word with more respect. This is the shift from speaking English to commanding English. But authority is not just about silence and words. It is also about the identity of the speaker. How do you view yourself when you speak this language? Are you a guest in the house of English? Or do you own the keys to reach the final stage of mastery? we must discuss the global mindset. The psychological shift that allows you to walk into any room in the world and feel like you belong at the head of the table. To reach the final stage of elite communication, we must address the foundation upon which your words are built, your identity. You can master every greeting, memorize every high-status synonym, and perfect every power pause, but if your internal identity is that of a learner, you will always be a guest in the house of English. The global elite, the founders in Silicon Valley, the bankers in London, and the executives in Toronto, do not view English as a subject they studied. They view it as a tool they own. To join their ranks, you must undergo a psychological shift from a student mindset to a global master mindset. Most people in non-English-speaking countries suffer from what is known as linguistic imposter syndrome. They feel that, because they weren't born in London or New York, their English is somehow borrowed. This internal belief creates a subtle hesitation in the voice. It makes you apologize for small mistakes and causes you to look for approval in the eyes of native speakers. In the Royal English Academy, we reject this. In 2026, English is no longer the property of any one nation. It is the operating system of the global elite. When you speak, you are not trying to imitate an American or a Brit. You are using a global instrument to deliver your unique value. The first step in this identity shift is to eliminate the phrase, "Sorry for my English," from your life forever. When you apologize for your language, you are essentially telling the listener to lower their expectations of you. You are placing a discount on your own intelligence. A CEO does not apologize for the tools they use, they focus on the results they deliver. If you make a grammar mistake, do not stop, do not blush, and do not apologize. Keep moving with the same level of confidence. The 1% value clarity and conviction over textbook perfection. If you speak with total certainty, the world will adjust to your rhythm. Next, we must redefine what it means to have an accent. Many people waste years trying to sound exactly like a BBC news reader or a Hollywood actor. While clarity is important, your accent is actually a signal of your global reach. It tells the world that you are a person of multiple cultures, a person who has crossed borders to be in this room. That is a high-status trait. In high-level diplomacy and international business, a neutral, clear, and confident accent is often more respected than a local slang-heavy one. Focus on your vocal resonance, the depth and steadiness of your tone, rather than the shape of your vowels. A deep, resonant voice that speaks slowly is the universal sound of power. This leads us to the concept of linguistic territory. When you enter a conversation, you must decide who owns the space. An average speaker waits for the other person to set the tone, the pace, and the level of formality. An elite communicator takes ownership of the territory immediately. You do this by being the first to set the frame. If you walk in with a high-status greeting and a calm, slow pace, you are forcing the other person to step into your world. You are no longer the one trying to fit in. You are the one inviting them to join your conversation. This is the difference between being a participant and being the chairperson of the moment. The final component of the global master mindset is intellectual assertiveness. In the West, specifically in the USA and Canada, People respect those who can disagree with grace and logic. If you always agree with everything a native speaker says, you look like a yes man, which is a low-status position. To be seen as an equal, you must be comfortable using phrases like, "I see your point, however. My assessment of the market is slightly different." Or, "That's an interesting perspective. But have we considered the long-term friction this might cause?" This shows that you are not just a translator of words, but a generator of original thought. Your final drill for this transformation is to act as if, for the next 24 hours, I want you to speak every English sentence as if you were the person who invented the language. Speak as if every word you utter costs $1,000. If a word costs that much, you wouldn't waste it, you wouldn't say it nervously, and you certainly wouldn't apologize for it. You would deliver it with the weight and the pride it deserves. You have now moved through the 4 pillars of elite communication. You have broken the invisible barrier of greetings. You have acquired the vocabulary of wealth. You have mastered the power of the pause, and you have claimed your identity as a global master. You are no longer standing outside the gates of the global elite. You have the keys. The only question remains: what will you build with this new power? The world is waiting for your voice. Do not keep it waiting any longer. Once you have claimed your global identity, you must learn to navigate the most high-stakes environment of all, the language of high-ticket negotiation. In the elite circles of London, New York, and Dubai, negotiation is not an argument. It is a sophisticated dance of words where the person who speaks the most professional English usually loses, and the person who speaks the most strategic English always wins. To negotiate at a world-class level, you must stop using need-based language and start using based language. Most people, when they want something, whether it's a higher salary, a bigger contract, or a better deal, use words that sound desperate. They say things like, "I need this," "I hope you can," or "Is it possible to?" In the ears of a high-level negotiator, these words sound like a plea for charity. They signal that you are not in control. To command a high-ticket result, you must replace these with boundary phrases and conditional proposals. Instead of, "I need a better price," the elite negotiator says, "I'm looking for a number that reflects the premium nature of this partnership." Notice the shift. You aren't asking for a discount. You are demanding a reflection of value. A critical tool in the negotiator's arsenal is the if-then framework. This is how you protect your status while getting exactly what you want. Instead of agreeing to a request immediately, which makes you look too available and low status, you use the conditional. If we can align on these specific terms, then I am prepared to move forward immediately. This phrasing places you in the position of the grantor. You are the one allowing the deal to happen. It turns the conversation from, "Please work with me," into, "I will allow us to work together if the conditions are right." In the UK and Canada, negotiation is often wrapped in a layer of polite assertiveness. You must master the art of the softened no. An average speaker says, "No, that's too expensive," which creates immediate friction and shuts down the deal. A royal communicator says, "I'm not sure that aligns with our current strategic allocation, but I'm open to exploring alternatives that deliver the same impact." By using the word Aline, you aren't saying you can't afford it. You are saying it doesn't fit your high-level strategy. You have just turned a financial rejection into a display of professional discipline. Furthermore, we must discuss the anchor effect. In USA-style business, the first person to set a high-value anchor usually controls the room. However, you must deliver that anchor with total, vocal certainty. If you say your price is $50,000 and your voice goes up at the end like a question, you have already lost. The 1% can hear the doubt in your tone. To win, you must state your terms and then, as we discussed, use the power pause. State the number. Then stop. Do not explain. Do not justify. The first person to speak after a price has been mentioned is often the one who loses the leverage. Let the silence do the work for you. To navigate a high-stakes deal, you also need the language of risk mitigation. High-status people are more afraid of losing what they have than they are excited about gaining more. To close them, you must use words like safeguard, consistency, and sustainability. Instead of saying, "This will make you a lot of money," say, "This initiative is designed to safeguard your market position while ensuring sustainable growth." You are speaking to their deepest desires: safety, longevity, and prestige. You are no longer a salesperson, you are a guardian of their empire. Your drill for this segment is to practice the counter offer. Imagine someone is asking you for a favor or a low-priced service. Do not say, "Okay," or "I can't." Practice saying this exact sentence with a calm, resonant voice. "I appreciate the proposal, however, for me to commit the necessary resources to this, we would need to adjust the terms to reflect the scope of the work." This sentence is a masterpiece of high-status negotiation. It shows appreciation. It shows you have limited and valuable resources, and it demands a reflection of that value. Remember, in the world of the global elite, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And you cannot negotiate with a student's vocabulary. You must speak the language of the person who is already sitting at the finish line. You have the greetings. You have the vocabulary. You have the silence. And now you have the leverage. We have moved from basic conversation to strategic warfare. But even a master negotiator needs to handle one thing: conflict. How do you handle it when things get heated? How do you maintain your royal composure when someone challenges you directly? Maintaining your royal composure is easiest when things are going well. But the true test of an elite communicator is how they handle conflict. In the high-pressure environments of London or New York, losing your temper is seen as a massive loss of status. When you shout, speak too fast, or become defensive, you are signaling that the other person has control over your emotions. To the global elite, emotional volatility is a sign of weakness. To master elegant conflict, you must learn to weaponize your politeness and use language that de-escalates the tension while keeping you in the position of power. The first rule of elite conflict is the emotional buffer. When someone attacks your idea or challenges your authority, an average speaker reacts instantly. A royal communicator takes a breath and uses a softening statement. Instead of saying, "You're wrong," or "That's not true," try, "I can see where that perspective might come from. However, the data I'm looking at suggests a different conclusion." Notice what happened here. You didn't attack the person, you attacked the discrepancy in the information. You remained calm, clinical, and objective. You aren't fighting, you are consulting. In Western professional culture, especially in Canada and the UK, direct confrontation is often viewed as low class. Therefore, you must master the passive, authoritative voice. When someone interrupts you or speaks over you, do not fight for the microphone. Stop talking immediately. Wait for them to finish. Then, after a 2-second power pause, say, "I'd like to finish my thought so we have a complete picture before we move on." This is far more devastating than shouting. It highlights their rudeness without you having to be rude yourself. You have just reclaimed the moral high ground, which is the strongest territory in any argument. If the conflict is about a mistake, either yours or theirs, avoid the blame language. Average speakers look for someone to point a finger at. Elite speakers look for systemic solutions. If a colleague fails you, don't say, "You missed the deadline." Say, "There seems to have been a breakdown in the delivery timeline. What do we need to adjust to ensure this stays on track?" By using the word "we," you are showing leadership. You are signaling that you are too important to worry about petty blame. You are only interested in the global objective. What if you are the one being pressured? In the USA, pressure tactics are common in business. Someone might say, "We need an answer right now, or the deal is off." A nervous speaker will panic and say, "Okay." A royal speaker will use the value. Hold. Look them in the eye and say, "I don't make significant decisions without a thorough assessment." If this requires an immediate answer, then the answer is a no for now. However, if we can revisit this tomorrow, I can give you a more considered response. This is the ultimate power move. It shows that you are willing to walk away. It shows that your process is more important than their pressure. In 90% of cases, the other person will back down because they realize they cannot bully a person who speaks with such vocal certainty. To handle high-stakes disagreement, you must also master the inquiry trap. Instead of defending your position, ask them to explain theirs until it falls apart. Use phrases like, "Help me understand the logic behind that specific point," or, "How does that align with the long-term objectives we discussed?" By asking the questions, you are the one in control of the conversation. You are forcing them to do the work. Often, under the heat of a calm inquiry, a weak argument will crumble on its own, and you won't have to raise your voice once. Your drill for this stage of mastery is the calm refusal. Think of a request you want to say no to. Instead of making an excuse, say this: "I appreciate the invite, but that doesn't align with my current priorities. I trust you understand." The phrase, "I trust you understand," is a closing statement. It doesn't leave room for them to argue. It assumes they are a reasonable, high-status person who respects boundaries. Elegant conflict is about being like a velvet brick. Soft on the outside, but unshakable on the inside. You have learned to greet, to speak with wealth, to use silence, to own your identity, and to negotiate. Now, you can stand in the middle of a storm and remain the calmest person in the room. This leads us to the final piece of the puzzle: the art of the closing. How do you leave a conversation so that your influence lingers long after you've walked out of the room? Once you have navigated the complexities of conflict and negotiation, you must master the final stage of any elite interaction: the royal departure. In the high-stakes circles of the USA and the UK, the last 30 seconds of a conversation are often more important than the first 30 minutes. This is where your linguistic legacy is built. Average speakers tend to let a conversation fizzle out with weak phrases like "anyway," "I should go," or "hope to see you soon." An elite communicator knows that the end of a meeting is not a goodbye. It is a strategic exit designed to leave a lasting impression of authority and value. The goal of a royal departure is to leave the other person feeling that their time was well spent, but that your time is even more valuable. To do this, you must avoid the lingering exit. When a meeting is over, stand up with purpose. Use a summary statement that reinforces your status. Instead of just leaving, say, "This has been a highly productive exchange. I've made a note of our primary objectives, and I look forward to the next steps." By using the word exchange, you are signaling that this was a meeting of equals. By mentioning objectives, you are showing that you are a person of action, not just a talker. In the UK and Canada, the royal way to leave often involves a layer of future pacing. You want to plant a seed in their mind about the next time you will meet, without sounding desperate. Try using, "I'll leave you to handle the internal logistics on your end, and we can circle back once the assessment is complete." This is a massive power move. You are effectively giving them homework. You are the one setting the pace of the relationship. You are exiting the room as the senior partner in the dynamic, regardless of your actual job title. Another critical tool is the gratitude of the great. Elite individuals are always polite, but their gratitude is specific and restrained. Never say, "Thank you so much for your time," repeatedly. It makes you look like a subordinate. Instead, use, "I appreciate the clarity you've brought to this discussion," or "It's been a pleasure to witness your perspective on this project." This is high-status validation. You are not thanking them for their time as if it were a gift. You are acknowledging their intellect as a peer. This creates a deep psychological bond of respect that lingers long after you are gone. In the USA, where time is the ultimate currency, the most respected departure is the time-bound exit. It sounds like this: "I have a hard stop for another commitment, so I'll step out now. Let's keep the momentum going." The phrase "hard stop" and "commitment" signal that you are a person in high demand. It shows that you have a life of purpose and a schedule that matters. When you leave people wanting just 5 more minutes of your time, you have achieved the ultimate level of social influence. You have turned your presence into a limited resource. Furthermore, we must discuss the digital departure. In 2026, most of your influence happens in the follow-up. The elite don't send long, rambling emails. They send executive recaps. A few hours after your meeting, send a brief message: "Great connecting today. I've prioritized the 3 action items we discussed. Let's aim for a significant milestone by Friday." This is clean, fast, and authoritative. It reinforces the royal identity you established in person and proves that you are a closer who follows through with precision. Your drill for this final segment of the interaction is the purposeful walk. The next time you finish a conversation, do not wait for the awkward silence. Decide when the value has been exchanged. Deliver your summary statement. Offer a firm, short handshake or a nod of respect, and walk away without looking back. Do not turn around for one last wave. Do not linger at the door. Walk with the stride of a person who has an empire to run. You have now moved through the entire life cycle of a high-status interaction. You have broken the barriers, used the vocabulary of wealth, mastered the power of the pause, claimed your global identity, negotiated with leverage, handled conflict with elegance, and departed with lasting influence. You are no longer just speaking English. You are commanding the world through the medium of English. You have the blueprint. You have the tools. Now, the only thing left is to step into the world and claim the seat that has been waiting for you at the head of the table. Beyond the boardroom and the negotiation table, there exists a hidden layer of the global elite. The world of high-status networking. In the penthouses of New York, the private clubs of London, and the luxury lounges of Dubai, wealth is moved not by formal proposals, but by the strength of social intelligence. To the top 1%, your ability to navigate a social room is a direct reflection of your ability to handle their money, their brand, and their trust. If you enter these rooms as a networker, looking for a job, you will be ignored. But if you enter as a cultural peer, you will find doors opening that no amount of money can buy. Social intelligence in English starts with the mastery of the high-level small talk. Average speakers make the mistake of asking "safe" or boring questions, the weather, the commute, or the food. To the elite, these are low-energy topics. They are forgettable. An elite communicator uses curated inquiry. Instead of, "Do you live in London?" Try, "What drew you to the London market specifically?" Instead of, "Do you like this event?" Try, "What has been the most provocative idea you've heard tonight?" Notice the word provocative. It is a high-status word that signals you have a sophisticated mind. It invites a deep, intellectual response rather than a one-word answer. In the UK and Europe, there is a concept called the art of the understated connection. The elite don't brag about their achievements, they wait for you to discover them. Therefore, when someone asks what you do, you must avoid the desperate pitch. Do not list your titles and your degrees. Instead, use a visionary statement. For example, "I'm currently focused on scaling cross-border communication for emerging leaders." It is short, it is prestigious, and it invites the question, "How are you doing that?" By being brief, you create a curiosity gap. You are forcing the high-status individual to chase you for information. Another critical tool in elite networking is the power of the introduction. In these circles, you become valuable not just for what you know, but for who you can connect. When you introduce two people, do not just say their names. Use the prestige pivot. Say, "Michael, you should meet Sarah. She is the mind behind the most efficient logistics framework in Toronto." Sarah. Michael is currently navigating the same friction points in his European expansion. By doing this, you have just provided value to two powerful people without asking for anything in return. In the world of the elite, this makes you a key person of influence. You are now the gatekeeper of the room. We must also discuss social calibration. This is the ability to read the energy of a room and adjust your English accordingly. If the room is high intensity, like a trading floor, your English must be fast, sharp, and direct. If the room is low intensity, like a private dinner, your English must be slow, melodic, and exploratory. An average speaker has only one gear. A royal communicator has many. By matching the linguistic tempo of the room, you are signaling tribal alignment. You are telling them, I am one of you. When it comes to building long-term influence, you must master the strategic compliment. Average people give shallow compliments on appearance or wealth. Elite people give compliments on judgment and philosophy. Instead of, I like your watch, try. I've always admired the way you've maintained consistency in your brand despite the market shifts. This shows that you have been paying attention at a high level. It shows that you value what they value, their mind and their legacy. This creates a bond of the intellectuals that is far stronger than any business card. Your drill for this segment is the 15-second intro. Practice introducing yourself without using a single job title. Use only your mission and your impact. Speak it with a calm, resonant voice and a slight smile. The goal is to sound like a person who is so comfortable with their success that they don't feel the need to prove it. Elite networking is about moving from transaction to transformation. You aren't there to get, you are there to contribute to the high-level energy of the space. When you master this, you no longer have to look for opportunities. Opportunities will find you, because you have become a magnet for high-value connections. You are now navigating the world not as a guest, but as a host. After mastering the rooms of private networking, we move into the final frontier of the global elite, the language of visionary leadership. To reach the absolute pinnacle of influence in the USA, UK, or Canada, you must transition from being a manager of tasks to a leader of minds. The top 1% do not just speak to communicate information, they speak to shape reality. They use English as a tool of rhetorical authority to inspire action, command loyalty, and define the future. This is the difference between a boss who tells people what to do and a visionary who makes people believe in what can be. Visionary leadership starts with the mastery of the future tense of certainty. Average leaders use wishful language. They say, I hope we can achieve this, or we are going to try to reach our goal. A royal communicator uses declarative language. They say, we are architecting a new standard for this industry, or our trajectory is clear. We will dominate the European market by Q4. Notice the shift. By using words like architecting and trajectory, you are painting a picture of deliberate, unstoppable progress. You aren't just predicting the future, you are claiming it. This level of certainty acts as a psychological anchor for your followers, giving them the confidence to execute your vision. In the UK and USA, visionary leaders are also masters of the rule of 3. The human brain is hardwired to process information in groups of 3. It creates a sense of completeness and rhythm. When you deliver a message, structure it into a triad of power. For example, we have the talent, we have the strategy, and we have the momentum. Or, our mission is to innovate, to scale, and to lead. This linguistic pattern makes your words feel like a drumbeat. It makes your message sticky, something that lingers in the minds of your audience long after the speech is over. It transforms a simple update into a royal proclamation. We must also discuss the concept of high status vulnerability. Many people think leadership means being a robot. But the global elite know that true power comes from selective transparency. If you make a mistake or face a setback, do not hide it behind complex corporate jargon. Address it with a commanding truth. Say, "We encountered significant friction in this phase. However, our assessment of the failure has provided the exact leverage we need to pivot successfully." By taking ownership of the friction and immediately pivoting to the solution, you turn a moment of weakness into a display of intellectual fortitude. You are showing that you are so secure in your leadership that you are not afraid of the truth. In the corporate cultures of Canada and the US, leadership is also about linguistic inclusion. A visionary doesn't just talk about "I." They talk about the collective mission. However, they do it without losing their authority. Use phrases like, "I am entrusting this mission to you," or "Your contribution is the catalyst for our global expansion." Words like entrusting and catalyst are high-value terms. They make your team feel like elite specialists, not just employees. You are not just giving orders, you are delegating authority. This creates a culture of prestige where everyone feels like they are part of a royal guard. Furthermore, we must master the strategic narrative. Every great leader tells a story. When you talk about your company or your project, don't just list statistics. Describe the hero's journey. Talk about the obstacles you've overcome, the innovation that saved the day, and the legacy you are building. Use sensory, high-impact words. We are moving from the chaos of the startup phase to the precision of a global empire. Words like precision and empire evoke images of strength and order. You are crafting a myth that people want to be a part of. Your drill for this stage is the manifesto moment. Record yourself for 60 seconds describing your vision for your career or your business. Do not use any weak verbs. No try, no help, no hope. Use only power verbs. I am building, I am scaling, I am disrupting. Listen to the recording. If you don't sound like a person you would follow into battle, do it again. Focus on your vocal gravity. Keep your voice low and your pace steady. You have now moved from the basic social greetings to the highest levels of visionary rhetoric. You are learning to use English, not just as a second language, but as your primary weapon of influence. You are no longer just a participant in the global economy, you are a cultural architect. You have one more step to take. In our final segment, we will discuss the ecology of the master. How to maintain this level of excellence for a lifetime and build a legacy that transcends language itself. We have now reached the summit of our journey. You have moved through the mechanics of greetings, the strategy of wealth, vocabulary, the command of silence, and the architecture of visionary leadership. But the final question for the true elite is not just how to reach the top, but how to stay there. This is the legacy of the global master. In the most prestigious circles of the USA, the UK, and beyond, mastery is not a destination, it is an ecology. A way of existing where your English becomes a living reflection of your character, your discipline, and your impact on the world. To maintain this level of authority, you must first master the law of intellectual vitality. The global elite never stop being students, even when they are masters. In 2026, the language of power is evolving faster than ever. To stay relevant, you must feed your mind with premium content. Stop consuming basic English materials and start immersing yourself in high-level philosophy, advanced economics, and global strategy. When you read a complex editorial in a prestige publication or listen to a high-stakes geopolitical debate, you aren't just learning words. You are absorbing the linguistic DNA of the people who run the world. This ensures that your English always feels fresh, relevant, and cutting edge. The next pillar of legacy is the consistency of the royal persona. True power is not a performance you put on for a meeting. It is a habit. An average speaker is professional only when they have to be. A royal communicator is authoritative in every interaction. Whether they are speaking to a waiter, a taxi driver, or a CEO. When you maintain a high standard of English in every micro interaction, it becomes your natural state. Your brain stops translating and starts originating. You no longer have to think about being elite. You simply are elite. This consistency builds a reputation that precedes you. People will begin to hear of your presence before they even meet you. We must also discuss the concept of linguistic mentorship. The highest form of mastery is the ability to empower others. As you climb the ladder of global success, your English should be used to lift those around you. When you use your authority to validate a colleague or to articulate someone else's value, you are performing a prestige act. In the eyes of the top 1%, a person who builds others is more powerful than a person who only builds themselves. Use your command of the language to be the voice of reason, the voice of clarity, and the voice of the future. This is how you transform your influence into a social legacy. Furthermore, a global master understands the ethics of eloquence. With the power to persuade, negotiate, and lead comes a profound responsibility. The elite do not use their English to deceive. They use it to provide extreme clarity. In a world filled with noise and confusion, the person who can speak the truth with elegance is the person everyone will follow. Make it your mission to be the most current person in any room. Use your vocabulary not to sound smart, but to make the path forward clear for everyone. This is the ultimate status signal, the ability to simplify complexity. As we conclude this masterclass, I want you to remember your linguistic North Star. Your English is the bridge between who you are and who you want the world to see. It is the vessel for your ideas and the armor for your identity. Do not let it rust. Every morning, remind yourself that you are a global closer, a cultural architect, and a royal communicator. The world does not reward those who speak perfectly. It rewards those who speak with conviction, character, and command. Your final drill, the drill for the rest of your life, is to speak to the future. In every conversation, ask yourself, is this how the person I want to become would speak? If the answer is no, pause, recalibrate, and try again. There is no shame in the pursuit of excellence. There is only the glory of achieving it. You now have the full 10-part blueprint of the Royal English Academy. You have the tools to walk into any glass skyscraper, any gala, and any boardroom on this planet and belong. You are no longer a student of English. You are a master of the global stage. The invisible barrier is broken. The empire is yours to build. Go forth and speak your world into existence. The legacy of the global master. We have reached the summit of our journey. Over these segments, you have moved through the mechanics of greetings, the strategy of wealth, vocabulary, the command of silence, and the architecture of visionary leadership. But the final question for the true elite is not just how to reach the top, but how to stay there. This is the legacy of the global master. In the most prestigious circles of the USA, the UK, and beyond, mastery is not a destination, it is an ecology. A way of existing where your English becomes a living reflection of your character, your discipline, and your impact on the world. To maintain this level of authority, you must first master the law of intellectual vitality. The global elite never stop being students, even when they are masters. In 2026, the language of power is evolving faster than ever. To stay relevant, you must feed your mind with premium content. Stop consuming basic English materials and start immersing yourself in high-level philosophy, advanced economics, and global strategy. When you read a complex editorial in a prestige publication or listen to a high-stakes geopolitical debate, you aren't just learning words. You are absorbing the linguistic DNA of the people who run the world. This ensures that your English always feels fresh, relevant, and cutting edge. The next pillar of legacy is the consistency of the royal persona. True power is not a performance you put on for a meeting. It is a habit. An average speaker is professional only when they have to be. A royal communicator is authoritative in every interaction. Whether they are speaking to a waiter, a taxi driver, or a CEO. When you maintain a high standard of English in every micro-interaction, it becomes your natural state. Your brain stops translating and starts originating. You no longer have to think about being elite, you simply are elite. This consistency builds a reputation that precedes you. People will begin to hear of your presence before they even meet you. Furthermore, a global master understands the ethics of eloquence. With the power to persuade, negotiate, and lead comes a profound responsibility. The elite do not use their English to deceive, they use it to provide extreme clarity. In a world filled with noise and confusion, the person who can speak the truth with elegance is the person everyone will follow. Make it your mission to be the most coherent person in any room. Use your vocabulary not to sound smart, but to make the path forward clear for everyone. This is the ultimate status signal, the ability to simplify complexity. As we conclude this masterclass, I want you to remember your linguistic North Star. Your English is the bridge between who you are and who you want the world to see. It is the vessel for your ideas and the armor for your identity. Do not let it rust. Every morning, remind yourself that you are a global closer, a cultural architect, and a royal communicator. The world does not reward those who speak perfectly. It rewards those who speak with conviction, character, and command. You now have the full blueprint. You have the tools to walk into any glass skyscraper, any gala, and any boardroom on this planet and belong. You are no longer a student of English. You are a master of the global stage. The invisible barrier is broken. The empire is yours to build. Go forth and speak your world into existence.